Okay, well, we might make a start to our session. Um, Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar for the Southeast Asia Corporate Decarbonisation Exchange on cutting energy waste in your business. My name is Mark Lister, and I'm the CEO of the Southeast Asia Corporate Decarbonisation Exchange, or CDX. And thanks for dialing in today. We hope to be able to present you with a really practical session with some tips and ideas about how you can move forward with cutting energy waste and energy efficiency. So a quick introduction to CDX for those of you who don't know about CDX. We're actually setting up as a year-round knowledge and learning platform for companies and individuals to really get the tools, the knowledge and the connections that they need to really start taking action on corporate decarbonisation. We know that a lot of people are interested in this topic and keen to move forward, but the industry is quite fragmented. The messaging is quite confusing, and it's difficult to know how to start and where to start. So we're focused on helping you to understand where to start in your decarbonisation journey, and we're stepping through with different webinars every month to try and help introduce some of the key topics at hand. So we are doing these kinds of online engagements. We're doing a lot of in-person events across the region, including in Philippines, in Thailand, and in Indonesia coming up. More on that a little bit later. We also have an academy that you can join to really get the information that you need, not just as a one-off thing, but as a support throughout the internal exercise you go through to bring your organisations to a lower emissions future. So today, as I said, our conversation is about energy efficiency. So luckily I can actually share some information with you on this because it's an area that I've been working in myself for a long time. So we've got a couple of expert speakers coming after me to really sort of flesh out a little bit of more detail on some of those specific topics. And I'll share my screen with you, just a few slides from me. Before I go any much further, I'd like to encourage you all to really get involved in the session. We want to make this as practical as we can. We want to make sure that you have an opportunity to answer the questions that you came and registered for this webinar to ask. So there's a Q&A function in the webinar. Please do ask your questions. We'll try to get to them all during the session. And I think it's really about making sure that we can tailor the content to your needs. All of us speaking today have some background in this. We can start to help you answer your questions to the point where you can start to take actions. So I'll move ahead, and I'm actually showing my last slide there rather than my opening slide, just with our contact details. But the question about cutting energy waste and energy efficiency is really a starting point for organisations working on decarbonisation. And why is that? Why would you start your decarbonisation journey here with energy efficiency? Well, it's often called, and the IEA I think coined this, but it's been copied elsewhere in a lot of different publications and a lot of different media that you see, as the first fuel. So what does that really mean, the first fuel? So we're thinking about how to reduce emissions globally. We're thinking about options for reducing the human-induced climate change that we're seeing through lower carbon dioxide emissions. Now, you hear a lot about supply-side arguments, which is really saying, how do we convert all of our fossil fuel energy generation to cleaner sources? But there's a whole other side of the equation here. That's energy demand. So thinking about where to start on things, energy demand and not wasting energy in energy demand is actually a much preferable solution as a first step, because it will help to turbocharge the supply side targets that we're having. And what I mean by that is that if you don't need to generate it in the first place, you're actually saving on the infrastructure needed to supply waste. So per unit, it costs less to save energy than producing it if it's only going to be wasted. So this is a turbocharger both on reducing the investment that's required in generation, but also the infrastructure requirement to transport the energy to where it's going to be used. So the supply and demand question here is very much weighted to supply in what we hear about, but the demand and reducing demand is actually doing a lot of the heavy lifting. In fact, the estimate of since 1970 to now of what has been the biggest contribution to reduced emissions from where we would otherwise be is actually energy efficiency and reductions in demand. So the forecast for what we need to do next in terms of reaching global emission reduction targets suggests that over 40% of the answer will come from energy efficiency and will come from demand. So this is a huge opportunity that you don't often hear about, and additionally to that, this is achievable using immediately available technologies that are proven. We don't need to invent something to deliver on this. The opportunities are everywhere. They're in every business. They're in every household. They're probably in the room that you're sitting in right now, listening to this. So there's significant untaken opportunities and potential. You can see on the graph that I'm putting up on this slide here, which again is from the International Energy Agency, a leading voice in energy efficiency. And the description here is saying from 2020, we're expecting to see increased greenhouse gas emissions from activity, which is the brown bar, the second bar from the left, 29% by 2030. And then the range of measures that are going to be needed to bring that back down by 2030 and then by 2050 to achieve that net zero target. So what you see here is actually that the purple and the yellow and the blue sections of this, behaviour and avoided demand, energy efficiency and electrification of other sources. But those things are the absolute lion's share of what's needed to create a low emissions future. Compare that to bioenergy and other renewables as a tiny part at the bottom, and you realize that there's a huge bias in the way that things are reported and saying, oh, we just need to produce a whole shift the energy transition away from fossil fuel energy generation towards renewable generation or low emissions generation. But the demand picture is not often covered, and it's such a big picture. So why aren't more companies focused on efficiency and cutting energy waste? Well, that's something we'll come back to, and interested in your questions as we go through today's session. So there's a range of technologies available that could be used, and I won't spend a long time going through them all. But certainly everyone is operating out of buildings, so passive technologies to reduce energy demand in the first place. Thinking about high efficiency heating, ventilation, air conditioning, HVAC. We'll be coming back to that in the course of the session. Lighting and appliances. So we all are familiar with the things that we plug in, the lights that we use, and there's many applications of those, particularly in the household sector. For companies and industry, especially heavy industry, process technologies, looking at things like the sorts of equipment that gets used in factories, motors, air compressors, pumps, drives, etc. Boilers for heating up water and other substances, refrigeration, cold storage, other things like that. So that they can be very heavy energy users and big opportunities for efficiencies there. Water efficiency also plays to energy efficiency because water pumping and movement of water and use of water and hot water is very much tangled up with energy use as well. We also think about rooftop solar as being behind the meter and something that impacts on overall energy demand from the grid, and also management systems which can help to sort of optimize energy use. So there's a range of technologies that are available. And another part of this, and I know we'll talk also more about this, so I won't spend long on it, is most of these opportunities are highly profitable. So you can think about energy efficiency opportunities as a sort of a bankable investment. If we take the profits and the returns from this activity, there's enough to go around that we could actually finance this investment, share some savings with a who can actually finance this upfront for us without any outgoings. We can have some of the benefits during that period where we look at the performance and we contract on the basis of the performance here, so that an expert company can actually guarantee the savings that you'll achieve. That savings flow can then be used to repay all the finance costs, give some benefits until it's all paid back, after which the benefits flow to the customers, which is the diagram on the left-hand side here describing what we call an energy services company, or a ESCO, performance contract. So there's a sharing of the returns over a period, and then the benefits will all accrue to the customer. So this sounds too good to be true. We could actually fund this with no upfront costs. The savings will pay for the project, and we could go ahead and do this. And in that sense, we don't need a lot of upfront investment. So that sounds really good to be true. And I've listed some things on the too good to be true. I've listed some things on this particular slide talking about maybe some of the barriers to that. We'll come back to that. And I'm interested in your thoughts about barriers to investing in energy efficiency from your perspective. So how do you move forward? And this is another thing we want to talk about and keeping it relevant to you. And this matches the modules that CDX actually is working through in terms of a broader decarbonisation journey for companies. First, understanding the landscape, measuring emissions, measuring your energy use, being able to set targets to translate this into objectives for energy efficiency. Second, planning your pathway, evaluating options and making the business case for those options, and thinking about that longer term view on retrofitting existing assets towards savings and actually better financial outcomes, as well as the other benefits that energy efficiency can bring. Thinking about finance, which I just touched on and we'll go a bit further into during the call, as well as engaging then with the investors and the suppliers who can help to make it happen. And at the end of all that, it's about measuring and monitoring your results, disclosing what you're doing and helping government and the broader ecosystem to support on energy efficiency policy and incentives more broadly. So that's a really quick overview of the issues around energy efficiency and maybe what you need to do. So I will stop there and move straight to, in the interest of time, straight to our first speaker today. And our first speaker is actually someone that I work with very closely, Sirapak Sangsinsorn. She's a research associate with Asia Clean Energy Partners, and she's been involved in energy efficiency directly for a number of years, specifically within the commercial building sector, and that's particularly relevant to a lot of companies who obviously all operate in some degree with commercial building sector. She's going to talk to us about HVAC, so heating, ventilation and air conditioning, and think about the sorts of practical steps based on real performance data and maintenance issues that companies and businesses can take to reduce energy waste. So Sirapak, also known as S, and I'll call you S from here on, please go ahead and share what you have for us today. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you CDX team for having me. So I think right now everyone can see my presentation screen.
Yeah, if you can go to full screen, S, that would be great. It's not there yet. So thanks.
Yes. Okay.
That's perfect.
So thank you, Mark. So today I want to share like the potential energy saving from HVAC system, which is the case study from Thailand. And before we jump to the energy efficiency measure, I would like to start from the basic question. What is our building performance? And instead of thinking about creating the baseline or the prediction model, I would like to introduce you to use the data that you already have, like annual electricity consumption or the gross floor area. So actually you can calculate the energy use intensity by dividing annual electricity consumption by the gross floor area. And then you can compare with your peers, the building that has the same characteristic with your building. For example, if you have the office building and the EUI energy use intensity exceeds 142, that means your building consumes more than 50% of the office building in Singapore. And on the right side, you can see the pie chart. And this is the reason behind that why we want to talk about the HVAC system. Because the cooling system already consumes 70% of the energy consumption in the commercial buildings. Not only for the building level, but we can also evaluate the energy efficiency in the HVAC system as well. So the total system efficiency of the HVAC system, which include the chilled water plant and the air distribution site, the efficiency should be ranged between 0.85 kilowatt electricity per ton of refrigerant. So this unit is like it is kind of different from the normal efficiency unit, which is output divided by input, right? But this one is the input, which is the electricity, and divided by the output, which is the cooling capacity. And if you are renovated buildings, the efficiency will be like around 0.9 kilowatt electricity by ton. And the chilled water plant usually have the efficiency around 0.64 to 0.68 kilowatt per ton. This value range varies because of the lower chilled water supply temperature will the lower chilled water supply temperature will consume more electricity, as we know, and the air distribution side will have the energy efficiency around 0.2 kilowatt per ton. So if you have like the deviation from this number and higher than this value, it means that, okay, you may have some waste energy behavior, and you may investigate more into the detail, like what if you should fix your air distribution side or the chilled water side. I think we should familiar with this table. So this table is from the log sheet in the chilled water system. So I would like to encourage you to start easily from like what you already have. And this form is not just only a piece of paper, but actually it has some value behind that, because it can show you the fault or the mis operation in your system. For example, you can find the insufficient chiller capacity by checking the current and the chilled water set point. Or maybe you can find like the insufficient flow rate or even the overflow, which leads to the not optimized energy efficiency condition. And it can tell you about the performance of the condensing unit or the cooling tower. For example, if the condenser water from the cooling tower come back to the chilled water plant has a high temperature, it can decrease the chiller plant efficiency. So actually we have some rule of thumb that if the condenser water return back to the chiller plant increase 1 Celsius, it can reduce 2 or 3 cooling efficiency in your plant. And actually, you may not see through the chiller, and you cannot see what happened in the chiller tubes, but some indicator here can tell you about the issue inside the chiller. So you can investigate the chiller tube falling by checking the approach temperature between the refrigerant and the water temperature. So if you check the approach temp in the evaporator side and condenser side, you should keep the temperature around 5 Fahrenheit or around 3 Celsius. So if you try to keep this temperature in the recommended level, you can reduce the waste of the energy around 10 to 19%. And actually, this is like the common issue that I usually file when I do the energy audit. So you can see that this is the damage at cooling tower fins, and this can cause the weak heat rejection and increase the condenser temperature and reduce the energy efficiency in your HVAC system. And this is the case that the FCU has clogged filter. This can prevent the airflow from the air distribution go to the occupancy area, and it can increase the fan power consumption and reduce the efficiency of the cooling system in total.
Yes,
And actually,
I'm gonna have to ask you to make your points pretty quickly. We need to wrap up in about the next 2 minutes. Thanks.
thanks. And if you have like a longer, a more advanced monitoring system, you can check the data in more detail. For example, this case, you can see that the temperature is going down and the compressor is not stopped, and it makes like a very freezing room temperature, and you supply overcooling and also consume more energy. And actually, I would like to give this code because if you cannot remember what happened in the past, you try to repeat it again, and also it true with the energy efficiency building. So for the normal building, if you don't do anything, the energy use of the building will increase. But I would like to encourage you to use the data to like keep your best performance behavior. So if you implement the retrofit commissioning or the energy audit, like the first time the energy use will increase, but it may it decrease, right? And then it may increase again if you don't control your behavior. But if you try to control your behavior in the best condition, the more quickly you can control it, the more saving you can get, as you can see at this scale. And if you even pursue more like the measure that fit with your building, you can get more saving and if you try to control the best performance behavior, then this can be like the best practice to decarbonize the GHG emission in your building. So
Okay. Great, thank you, S. I'm going to cut things off there just in the interest of time to make sure we can cover everything. But thanks. Really interesting to look at, I think, the messages and takeaways for everyone out of what you're saying, which is that there's a real importance in having data and understanding what you have. I think it's a great message that you gave us, which is to start with what you have. Potentially, there's multiple opportunities there, and you outlined some of those. And I think you also pointed out really that you need expert input to be able to interpret this data and find those opportunities. And you mentioned at the end the importance of ongoing monitoring and measuring of activity and your impacts. And you also made the point, which is music to my ears, that monitoring is not actually verification, because we need to have that sort of stronger level of understanding to be able to use it to back contracts and to back financial returns. So thank you very much. We'll come back to questions for you after we've heard from our other speaker. I will just encourage everybody and remind everybody that the Q&A function is live, and if you have questions about what S has said, please do post them. I know, just looking at the participants here, there's a couple of real experts in the audience, so they might ask you some curly questions. Anyway, let's move to our other speaker today, who is Chris Seeley from Climate Change Solutions. So Chris is also a long-time energy efficiency expert, and he's worked previously with the Clinton Foundation, managing energy efficiency building retrofit programs across Asia. He's advised governments, commercial property owners, and done a range of energy efficiency projects. He's dedicated financing mechanisms that he's developed and managed portfolios of projects of over 250 million US dollars. So Chris has a wealth of practical experience in some of these questions about getting started on cutting energy waste, and he's going to share some of those with us today. Chris.
Thank you very much, Mark. Yeah, been doing this a while now, and I think the biggest challenge of this morning's session is combining all of the ideas and trying to answer a lot of questions into, I think, about 6 or 7 minutes. So let me jump into this. And Mark touched upon the ESCO concept a bit earlier, but I wanted to take this opportunity to say, if you're looking at energy efficiency, there's a concept or a business model called energy services, or a business called energy services companies, which actually can do everything for you. So it's not that challenging or scary of an approach, or of a way in which to try and get energy efficiency implemented in your building, for example. And the good thing is, as you can see on the left-hand side, an ESCO, or an expert energy company, can undertake all of the steps required to deliver a successful energy efficiency project, starting from having the capacity and team to do energy audits, doing the energy design or engineering design of solutions in-house, doing the actual procurement and implementation, have professional project managers to make sure the project is implemented well. And then post-implementation, what you really want to do is make sure that there's good maintenance servicing, everyone on site is well trained to understand how the systems work or should work. And one of the most important things after the implementation is the component of measurement verification, to make sure that the pre-calculated or estimated savings are actually achieved after the implementation has been completed for the long run. That's where you really get the savings. And then one of the major components which differentiates the ESCO business model and just the normal engaging a consultant, getting a report, finding suppliers, finding the cheapest product, is the fact that this turnkey solution that they offer is guaranteed by them in terms of the results. So you can be assured or rest assured that the results or the savings are actually achieved, not only in the first year or second year, but long term. So that's one of the most, it's the most comprehensive model in approaching energy efficiency, where you can actually outsource the whole component to an expert and be confident of the savings. Next slide, please, if possible. Thank you. So where do we start? I think that's kind of the most fundamental or basic question is, sure, energy efficiency is great. It has all these benefits. There's a nice model. There's experts to do it. But where do we start? And I think the basic start, which the Kun S mentioned just now, is to understand where you stand in terms of energy consumption, your baseline consumption. And the best way to do that is starting off with a detailed energy audit, or in formal terms, it's called an investment grade energy audit, which enables someone to make an investment decision on an energy efficiency project. So use an ESCO, for example, or use an expert in the industry to undertake a detailed audit, so you know where you stand, and then what you can do to actually reduce your energy consumption or improve your energy efficiency. In a standard detailed energy audit report, you would get information on both the technical solutions which are suitable for your property. For example, if it's an HVAC system or an air conditioning system, where do you stand? What's the performance efficiency today? and what could it be improved to, and then the financial side of things, how much is it going to cost me, how much is it going to save me, and what is the payback period on that. That first step, usually to do a good one, usually takes about 2 months, and then that forms the basis for moving forward and actually looking at, well, what makes sense to me in terms of my targeted ROI, my capacity to implement, or budgetary concerns or models. And then you work on negotiating an implementation contract, or what's called an energy performance contract, which outlines all of the details. For example, the scope of work, the measures to be implemented, how the guarantees are going to work, the maintenance and servicing responsibilities, etc. And then you're ready to go. You're ready to go for implementation, which usually, I mean, this depends totally on the size of the project and the scope, but in general, it takes about 3 to 6 months, I'd say, implementation. And then it doesn't stop there with this process, which is one of the fundamental differences and importances of energy efficiency. Is the last step here, which is the measurement and verification, is to make sure that the project is actually continuously delivering the savings well after implementation completed. So we make sure that on an annual basis, we revisit the data, the information, the performance, to make sure that things are running according to what they should be. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go into details around the different models, but as I mentioned, the comprehensive way of approaching energy efficiency through the use of an ESCO can be implemented in many different ways. The top one there, which is probably the most familiar one to many people, is the guaranteed model, where the ESCO guarantees either the savings to be delivered or to be generated from the project, or guarantees the performance of a technology and system, which in turn actually can be linked to the savings resulting in the project. And then the next three are really models which are focused on the financing side. So if the building owner wants to do everything but doesn't have the budget, then they should look at the shared savings model, where the benefits are shared between the ESCO and the building owner. The leasing model, which I find is very well accepted, well received by a lot of building owners, because it's very easy to understand. It's simply taking the cost of the project and dividing it by monthly installments over a long term, let's say 4 or 5 or 6 years, repayments back to the ESCO. And then the bottom one there, which is a bit more complicated and more suitable for much larger projects, are where the ESCO comes in and implements the project, invests into the technologies, and sells services. For example, if it's an HVAC system, chilled water, hot water, or for industrial side projects, often it's steam.
Chris, can I ask you to wrap up your comments in the next minute or so, because we want to leave a little bit of time for
absolutely
questions.
Two simple case studies I like to share with everyone. If I could just get some help with the next slide, please. Okay, I've taken just 2 samples, both of which are in Thailand. This is a multiple building project, but it can be broken down into individual buildings. Just a simple portfolio of hotels, 6 hotels, different sizes, different locations, all done under an ESCO financed model, where the owner didn't have to put up any money. They were retrofitted with all different types of measures. For example, HVAC, chiller, split type air conditioning, hot water, occupancy control systems, and a small part on the solar roof. And the whole project is a 7-year lease term, where the building owner pays the ESCO back over 7 years in monthly installments. And those installments, the beauty of this model is the monthly installments paid are actually lower than the savings every month. So it's a cash flow benefit for the building owner every month. Final slide, please. Okay, and one more. This is an example once again in Bangkok, where a big retail center underwent an energy efficiency retrofit focused on the chiller, and it was $3 million investment and a 10-year performance guarantee on the performance of the chiller plant, generating about $200,000 worth of savings in energy every year. So I'll leave it at that, Mark, and everyone. Just wanted to share some of these processes, case studies, and to kind of simplify the process on the ground, as to say, well, the ESCO model is a very good comprehensive model to use. You can either do it as a single technology, multiple technology, single building, multiple building. It can all be modified into kind of a very flexible business model, which can be either financed by the building owner or financed by the ESCO or a third party.
Great, thanks very much, Chris, for the comprehensive overview related to the options, I guess, for financing and moving forward with projects. And as we've said, this is an area that I think deserves more attention. There's a lot more potential than is being realised at the moment, and there's models that exist to really help you take forward implementation here on the finance side. So, if anything, we're now moving to Q&A, and I let Chris go for a little bit longer and our speakers run a little bit longer because I haven't seen any questions from anybody in the Q&A. I can open the floor now if you'd like to raise your hand or actually pose any questions. But otherwise, I'm conscious of the time, and I'll move towards the closing of the session pretty soon, but not before asking a couple of questions to our speakers today. Maybe just to let people know as well, if you are interested in the ESCO model and you'd like to know more, Chris is very much involved with the Thai ESCO Association. I'm also involved with something called the Global ESCO Network, which is really a association of all the different ESCO associations around the world. So there's about 40 countries involved there, and through that we have a connection and involvement with the ESCO, the groups looking to bring forward the ESCO model all across Asia and all in different markets around the world. So if you are interested in that model and how it could work, or have questions about how it could work for you, then please do get in touch with us and we can connect you up with the right people. So just in the interest of time, I've got a quick question maybe for both Chris and for Es. Maybe Chris, since you've just finished, I mean, the question that is in my mind and has, something that we've been working on for a long time is really to say, well, what is the one thing that that holds people back, or is there something you can identify that is a sticking point for companies in saying, yeah, I will go ahead and implement on energy efficiency. I'll go ahead and do the project and use an expert to help implement and finance it. What is the sort of the sticking points that you commonly hear about, or people's reluctance to do that, and what would you say to them in answering those concerns?
I think in general people are deterred by the complications around energy efficiency. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to choose a business model. They don't know how to choose a company to work with. They don't know where they're going to get the money from. So it's all a lot of questions with the need to then find answers. I think I have to break it down into very simple. It's not that much different from dealing with a consultant who does a report for you and then going forward with that. It can be included into your standard procurement policy, whether you're a big company, a publicly listed company, or a small company looking for some help. It's the thought that it's all too complicated. It's all too technical to start off, when we can actually simplify it into a very simple business model, simple process, simple approach. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's really important because it can seem overwhelming, I think, and it's difficult for people to get a sense of confidence. We talked a little bit about monitoring and verification before, but having really solid protocols around how to do that, for example, means that there's more trust in the projects and what they'll achieve. And it's that degree of, I think, confidence and trust that's sometimes missing. I agree with you on that. But there are ways to simplify. S, before I go to you, I'm very pleased to see a couple of questions from the audience, so I'm going to allow them to go ahead. And one of them is someone I know well and also an expert in the field. So Tom Dreesen, please go ahead with your question. Nice to see you. Tom, do you have a question that you want to ask? Or I'm not able to ask, you still on mute at the moment, but I'm not sure if you can come off mute in this thing. But so maybe the question needs to go in the Q&A box. I'm not sure. Vitali is also with his hand up. Vitali Vladimirovich, if you're able to unmute and ask your question, then please go ahead.
Good day, good morning. First of all, thank you for inviting to this event. The question is very simple. The data about the Christopher make a presentation for the hotel projects, and my question, the roughly how many kilogram or how many ton of the garbage per day the hotel with this capacity can give, roughly?
Sorry, if I understood the question, it's about the tons of waste coming from the
waste garbage, yeah.
So garbage, solid waste.
Yeah.
You want to take a shot at that, Chris? I'm not sure if that's something you looked at.
To be honest, I have not looked at it. It's not in the scope of energy efficiency that we've looked at or other case studies that I have at hand. So I'm afraid I'm not able to answer that question at the moment.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Mark, can you hear me now, Mark, or not? I'm sorry for jumping in. Can you hear me now or not?
Yes. No, we can hear you, Tom.
Yeah,
that's great. Vitaly, sorry,
2 minutes.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Vitaly, but if you can put your comment in the chat, we can certainly get back to you as well with a question. I'm just conscious of everyone's time. We don't want to keep people over time. Yeah, go ahead, Tom, if you have a question.
Yeah, just a quickie. I got to jump on another call, regrettably, but just want to echo what Chris said as far as the barrier. I mean, and give a quick example, especially in Southeast Asia. You've got two markets where the markets are just totally untapped, one being Indonesia, one the Philippines, and one might conclude automatically that the reason not in Indonesia because they have much lower rates. Philippines has huge electric rates, but neither one is penetrated at all. And so I would like to echo what Chris is saying. The primary reason is you'll hear everybody focus on saying the financing is not available and all that. That's not the main barrier. Financing is not the main barrier. It's exactly what Chris says. There's a lack of knowledge and comfort with their understanding, the owner's understanding how the savings are going to be realized and how they're going to be measured and verified. It's too complex. As an example, had a project in Indonesia, $8 million investment, $3 million a year in savings, and all the technical people, it was a big industrial customer, and all of its technical, the owner's technical people were in favor, but the owner says, no, I don't, it was a shared savings. I was putting in the $8 million, okay? So it had nothing to do with financing, right? And even gave him a 12% rate, had it fixed, so it was like, there was no economic barriers, and the owner ultimately admitted, well, you know what? I don't really understand this, and what I know is you do understand this business, and what I know is I'm going to ultimately have to pay you because I have no ability to challenge what you're going to say I owe you in savings. So he ended up not doing it. So yeah. I guess that's an example I think that is worth saying. So capacity building, knowledge building is really critical. Anyway, so that's it. I just want to jump in on that.
No, thanks, Tom. Thanks. Helpful. And, for everyone's benefit, Tom and I know each other well, and Chris knows Tom as well. I think Tom is based in Indonesia and a real expert in this, has been trying for a long time to do a range of projects there and understands those barriers. So again, I think I'd like to leave you with a message around.
Yeah, I got to run, Mark. I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tom.
Well
Thanks,
done.
great. Thank you. So, I mean, the message is that it's not straightforward to negotiate this on your own, and you do need help from experts. If you are interested in this area and want to take any thoughts further, you can contact us. You know, S, for example, has a lot of experience in the field of buildings and HVAC, as she talked about. Chris has a lot of experience in the ESCO sector. And through CDX, we're hoping to help people with that, raising awareness, understanding that it can be simplified. It's not as difficult and bewildering as you think. So maybe just to finish, a couple of minutes, I know we're 2 minutes over time, but let me just finish with a couple of comments about CDX. As I mentioned, it's a year-round platform that we're really developing for people who are looking to take the first steps on their decarbonisation journey. You get the opportunity to collaborate with others who are on the same journey that you are. We have some knowledge, information that you can access. We have a network of experts and practitioners. So the people who can provide solutions to the people who are seeking them, and it's really like matching needs in that way. And we have what's called an academy that you can join, and through that joining you can access events like this, but also our paid events, and start to learn what you need and get connected in the way that you need to. So this is just a bit of background on that. I wanted to just flag before we finish that we're having a CDX summit coming up at the end of September, the start of October, in Thailand, in Bangkok. We also have an event in the Philippines coming up in a couple of weeks, and we have an event in Indonesia later this year, or maybe potentially in January. So we are engaging throughout the region. This is an opportunity for you to come learn more about what you need to know to drive change internally, and to meet up with like-minded people who can actually help you along your way. So there's just a little bit of brief material here about the summit itself, and on the next slide you can see a code where you can actually join through your participation in this webinar. You'll get an opportunity to join at a special rate, and the QR code is there as well to come along and learn more about it. So I'm going to wrap things up there. We're just a couple of minutes over time. There wasn't a lot of time to ask questions to Chris and S, but if you do have questions, you can continue to post them after the session's ended in the chat, and we'll do our best to get back to you. Please stay involved. Please stay connected with us. And thanks very much for attending today. And thanks to both of our speakers, Chris and S, for this session on cutting energy waste. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, CDX team.
Thanks. Bye-bye.